visual effects now is like investing everyone's time into improving the visual quality and fidelity of the picture in ways that the audience doesn't appreciate or care about. That is 10 years ago where we got. 10 years ago, we got to the point where we're all just sitting around, enjoying the smell of our own farts in champagne glasses because the audience can't tell the difference between anything we're doing anymore. And in general. And when people go, well, that's not true. Look at all these shitty visual effects. I'm like, yeah, but those shitty visual effects are because somebody went in and tried to do something they had only half the budget for. None of those visual effects were actually hard. They were hard to do at the price point those people did them. So that was stupidity. That wasn't technology or creativity. That was just stupidity. You had to kind of get out of the visual effects business because everybody was so myopically focused on improve quality, tweak this. And then, look, I worked on 3D movies and I worked on what I would like to think are some of the better 3D movies that ever came out. And I know what went into them and what work it took to do. But I think that the Hollywood factory was starting to create content that wasn't really what the audience wanted because the Hollywood machine needed somewhere to go, It's like, shit, we need to progress somehow. Increase resolution, increase dynamic range, increase depth, add stereo, wrap the screens around the audience. I was like, you guys are desperate. Here's the fact. It used to be that people went to the movies on average 40 times a year. And now it's less than 2. So you're desperately trying to cling on to something that people are not necessarily attracted to anymore. And even though the box office grows because the market grows, because there's more theaters, because there's more countries, because there's more people, the number of theaters that people go to per year is not getting bigger. So if that's the case, then, and I understand why the theater industry is so desperate to try and come up with new innovations that compel people to have to go to the movie theater. But from a storytelling standpoint, from a creative standpoint, let go of that for a second. That's business. And just think, if you want to give somebody a great experience, why don't you give them what they want, where they want it? And trying to force them into some unique proprietary special over there is like, I don't know. I had a kid and my kid started playing with an iPad. It's a real simple experiment. Give a kid an iPad or give a kid a television, and then give them the choice between the two. And you basically can answer your own questions right there. Film and television, no. Interactivity, yes. And so the funny thing is that when you look at what those kids do, and even as they get older and older and older, we're sitting here with like our microscopes out, trying to make sure that there isn't a single pixel of dust in the corner of a frame at 4K in the frickin' pad off the edge of the top right corner. And kids are like giggling and laughing and having a ton of fun through greasy fingerprint smeared iPad sneeze pattern on the screen, like there's some tapioca pudding on the corner and they're having a blast, and then you look at the amount of time. It's like, okay, I'll watch this for an hour at best, or I'll play 6 hours of Minecraft. I'm not saying it's all about games per se, but it's that interactivity and that immersion and that agency that you give people. And you find that it's a lot more sticky and it's a lot more engaging. And suddenly I came to a sort of a realization that seems stupid now, which is visual fidelity is not nearly as important as interactivity. Mm-hmm. When all you have in a movie theater, because your hands are cuffed in your lap eating popcorn and all you can do is watch the big screen, then sure, visual fidelity is, you have to lean into that because it's what justifies people going into the theater because they can't get that at home. So you have to differentiate yourself. But as creatives and as storytellers, why is that theater thing so important to us? When if you just think about the audience, you're like, well, what's important to them? And then you realize, there are other things that they value higher than visual fidelity and high dynamic range, all kinds of stuff. People are going to argue with me and say they're going to be purists and, oh my God, you can't replace the theatrical experience. No, just like you can't replace opera. It'll continue to exist. And so will theater, and so will Broadway. But it is not the be-all, end-all content-consuming experience that necessarily is what the masses want when it comes to experience.
And I mean, all of that I think is really fascinating, but even the differentiation between, let's say, a Broadway play or opera is that it's a different type of interaction, but in a way, you being there, you are interacting versus a screen, which is a print copy. It's a very different experience.
Yeah, exactly. So that's an interesting point too, that people always say, like, oh, you can't do the live experience, and people around you. I'm like, really? Because every time I go to the movies, I'm really annoyed by that person texting on their phone and this person eating the popcorn too loud and those people talking about other shit. I'm not like part of the collective happiness in responding to the screen. That's a nostalgic impression that Hollywood puts on people, that somehow being part of the collective is great. Now, in a live performance, it's different. And there's a whole psychology behind live and why that is. In a live performance, anything can happen. Case in point, the Oscars. Will Smith walks up and pops Chris Rock in the face. That shit wasn't going to happen in the movie version of the Academy Awards. Nice. And if anything, one could say, hey, you know what? Will Smith just did us all a really big service at the expense of Chris Rock. And that is, the Academy Awards was starting to go in the direction that the rest of television has gone, which is, in order to give the audience agency to pause and go get popcorn themselves in the kitchen or go to the bathroom and then come back and hit play, or, oh, I'll just watch the rest of this later. In order to give the audience agency, we've gone away from live. And the only thing we've traded is what's unpredictable outcomes. Sports is the only thing left, and to some extent political elections is the only thing left that is live, and everything else is not. And so the Academy Awards this time had started to move in this direction of going, okay, well, if everybody doesn't care about live anymore, then we're going to start pre-producing things so that we can fit this into the box that everybody wants it to be in. And so then Will Smith single-handedly slapped everyone in the face by saying, this is what happens when things are live. And I don't think he did this on purpose, but if he did, it was genius. But that's what happens in a live performance, and people get engaged by it because it's not pre-produced. You don't know how it's going to end, even though you're pretty sure you know how it's going to end. Anything can happen. The wire can break, the performer can fall, the scenic can tumble over, the music can stop working. You know, there could be a fire. And that anticipation and that drama is what makes live events so interesting. Cinema, you don't have that at all anymore. You know the outcome because it was already reviewed on the internet. You know how the movie ends. So
yeah, I love that. I mean, that's the psychology of how gambling works as well, is that it's unpredictable outcomes. If you were to pull the lever and every time get money, then you're gonna
the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So in gaming, it's called the law of variable rewards. There's if you read books on human perception and psychology, variable reward is a psychological thing that humans still can't deal with. And we are just attracted to it. And so that's a variable outcome. If you always gave somebody 25 cents for pressing a button, then, studies show this time and time again. They'll press the button until they get bored of 25 cents. And then eventually they press the button less. And then they're just like, I don't need any more quarters. But if every time they press the button, it's some coin between, 25 cents and a penny, then people will press that button all day, every day, and they'll just keep doing it until they can find a pattern in the reward, and then they'll lose interest and move on, or until they get so wealthy from getting pennies that they can buy a yacht and sail off. But yeah, that is the essence of the difference between pre-produced and live.